Hello, this is the July 10th We the People Meet.org meeting that we're having every week. We usually have it on Tuesdays at noon. Today it's Thursday at noon because of scheduling. I've got Kent Bowman with me. He has been very influential in the financial community as an auditor and owner of audit firms in the state. And I'm one of the founders of We the People Meet. We are talking about schooling today. We started out talking about school because Alpine School District has broken into three different school districts, and there's a lot of new people running for office in those positions on the school boards. So we're talking about vouchers and things like that. Ken, do you want to say anything more about that, or should we move on to a different topic? What do you want to?
Uh, we can move on. Just in summary of what we kind of talked about very briefly is um, certainly, you know, I think the society needs to decide, do we want to have one standard system throughout the US that
Mhm.
is funded by, federal tax dollars? Do we want to have each individual state control its education funded by state or county or local tax dollars?
Uh-huh.
Or do we want to have school be something that is purchased by each family and taxes get reduced because we don't collect taxes for education anymore, and each family is on their own to purchase the amount of education they want for their kids? And then the question that the last one brings to bear is, what about those that don't have the wherewithal to purchase education for their children? What kind of a safety net would be provided for those in case that third option was chosen? So those were kind of the topics we were kicking around a little bit.
Right. One thing I want to bring up, since we are going to be really diving into studying of the Constitution, I do think it's a valid topic to bring up, the 10th Amendment to the Constitution, about, I'll just go to it. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution or prohibited to the states or reserved to the states respectively or to the people. Um, I personally don't believe that the federal government has a right to get involved in education and allocating funds to local school districts and things like that. And I also find that it's probably the mo not most efficient use of the funds to collect the funds through property taxes, income taxes, whatever taxes, have them go up to a federal government position and then be distributed back to the school districts in the states with strings attached oftentimes that they have to have meet certain criteria to get those funds, whether it be private schools or public schools. Because then first of all, there's the inefficiencies of government, having it go through multiple different agencies and things like that, and then be allocated back. It takes a lot of funding to man all those taxes, collecting the bureaucracy of distributing it back out. And also, always there are strings attached whenever federal government funds any institution or any entity, then there's usually strings attached, and that makes the states more beholden to the federal government instead of the other way around. So that's a full philosophical objection I have to how it's handled right now. And it seems like if we're collecting property taxes locally, that and income taxes that eventually make it to the schools, those should all be collected locally and distributed by the states at the highest level, you know. So that's a thought that I have. Another thought is with vouchers. I've had the concern that with vouchers come strings attached too. Anytime a school that's a private school gets a voucher, oftentimes there's rules like you cannot mention God or have prayer or some things like that. Are those are some restrictions that are had if vouchers are given out by the states. So those are some concerns that I have.
Yeah.
Um, am I sharing my screen?
Yes, I
And
can see the 10th Amendment there.
oh,
Yep.
okay, good. It doesn't have the usual. surrounding of that I usually see. Um, yeah, and as we're getting a new school board here in the North Utah County area, I'm going to be talking to a lot of the candidates over the next little bit and talking to them about these philosophies and how they feel about that. And I'd like to get people on this call each week too to talk about them. Maybe starting next week, we'll assign maybe a 15-minute time frame to different candidates to join us in these calls and discuss these issues with them. Um, so anyway, anything else on this topic before we move on?
No.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
I wanted to talk about this article that was published in the Deseret News and republished by KSL called Charter of Unity. It says the Constitution matters now more than ever, and it's by Justin Collings, who is an academic vice president and professor of law at BYU and a contributing scholar at BYU's Wheatley Institute. It's really one of the better articles I've seen in a long time about this issue, about the Constitution. And frankly, I'm surprised that it was on here because I've seen a lot more liberal viewpoints or less constitutional viewpoints hitting the airways on KSL and Deseret News, and I thought this is something that I can agree with 100%. They talked about how if you do a survey, you'll find that there's extreme ignorance amongst Americans about the Constitution. And this ties into our previous topic because how many constitutional studies classes are there taught in schools? I would say that's probably one of the most important topics. You know, the number one topic when it comes to history to me, is the Constitution, our Constitution. You know, history is important too, but understanding our current form of government is very, very important, and that just is not taught very thoroughly in the schools, I found. Um, and the illiteracy regarding it are part of an example of that. And so that, and he argues, Justin Collings argues that as our illiteracy expands about the Constitution, so does our partisan polarization. They're very linked in, he feels, and that the answer is educating us regarding the Constitution. Um, I think it's worth a read. I'm not going to read it and bore everyone in this meeting, but it is definitely worth a read to look through this article, and I think it makes a lot of sense. I just searched Constitution Deseret News, and this article came up. So I've also posted on my Facebook a link to it for everyone to read. Um, anyway, think that kind of is a good indicator that we're on the right track here, trying to study more about the Constitution going forward as a group. Um, any thoughts on that, Kent?
I agree 100%. I think the Constitution is the critical document. It's what kind of set us apart, from all other countries. And many have obviously attempted to build a constitution similar to ours, which obviously is great.
Hmm.
But yeah, protecting that is important, and we see challenges to it now. It seems like on a regular basis. Um, and interpretations of it that are new and different than what I ever thought could be. And there's a few, we don't have to go into these examples, but birthright citizenship kind of things are what seem to be, at least historically, to be, um, you know, really not capable of being debated, now appear to be being debated and further. So I do think the more our communities can understand and read the Constitution for themselves, and then they're better prepared to say, hey, if we move this direction, that's contrary to the Constitution, or if we move this direction, it it further empowers us because it's in line with the Constitution. So I like your thoughts there, Rob.
Sorry about that. There's a there was an article that I read too, kind of leading up to this. I'm trying to find it, but I couldn't find it. It was by Ezra Taft Benson about the inspired Constitution and how, um, you know, this isn't meant to be a Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints group by any means, but he brought up a lot of really good points, like there were several of our founding fathers that were amazed when they came out of the convention, saying, I didn't think we'd be able, basically, they didn't feel like it was going to come together, and it was only by God's divine intervention that they came to an agreement with the Constitution. And and then, of course, our scripture in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints um, says that there, I think it was Doctrine and Covenants 101 talks about how God was involved in it too. So it was kind of verified through scripture in our church that it is an inspired document, and it's not just for our country but for all countries, and which is cool that that was written that way back then because so many countries have copied it. Like you said, I think it's the most duplicated document in the world as far as countries using that as a um, kind of a benchmark to start their constitution and adjust it from there. Um, and it gives freedom of religion, which helps any church, but it also helps individuals, and it gives freedom of property and rights to people's property, which is very much important in a country growing and expanding. So it's a very important document to us. Um, I'm going to pause for a second, the meeting. Hold on a second. Well, we're back recording because there we had some really lively discussions. There were people that didn't want to be recorded in those conversations, and I honor that in our meetings. So I will summarize a little bit about what we talked about. I think there were some really beneficial things. So we're going into a primary election in North Utah County for the Aspen Peaks School District that has been formed since the people voted to break up the Alpine School District. Our area that I'm in is Lehigh, American Fork, Highland, Alpine, Cedar Hills. There, I may have missed something there, but and then there's also the West district that's been formed that has everything west of the freeway. And then there's also the South District that's PG, Orem, and um, Linden, I believe. Anyway, we've got uh, seven school district what do you call them, board members that are being chosen for each of the districts. And my district is going to be having my area in my school district where, one of the seven areas that they're split up into has four people running for office for the board member representing my area, which is right around Highland Elementary is where I live. And the people running are Jonathan Bellahano. I know I pronounced that wrong, but anyway, Jonathan Bellarano. There's Nikki Brammer, there's Jenny Hall, and there's Mary Thomas. We had some good discussions about each of them. Jenny has a Facebook page. Jenny Hall has a Facebook page that you can check out if you want to search for her on Facebook, where she's putting her platform. She has been a school counselor in the past. She worked at UVU. She's been very supportive of LGBTQ issues in the past, and we'll hear more about her if you're in this area. There is Mary Thomas, who has an Instagram account where she's promoting her platform. Um, I don't think she has quite as much experience, but it's always good to get new faces too. So check out her Instagram page. There's Jonathan Bellarano that his website is voteforjonathan.com. And the person that we were talking with said that she supports this school, or supports him because he is very supportive of schools, uh, public education system. He served on the SCC for Highland Elementary, and he's good with numbers, she said. And there's Nikki Brammer, who is also has some promotion of herself on Instagram for the position. She also has electnikki.com, electnikki.com is how you spell her name. She's been the Republican Party convention chair for Utah, the Utah Republican Party. Her husband, Brady Brammer, has been highly involved in politics over the years. Anyway, there are those four that are running for office here. Um, we talked a lot about the role of the federal government in our schools. We talked about how it is in the Constitution that anything that's not outlined in the Constitution really belongs to the states. So several of us felt that there should be no National Education Association. There should be no funding from the federal government. One of our members pointed out that 80% of the dollars going to schools comes from the state or from the local communities, and only 20% comes from the federal government. There was some arguments about how the federal government's inefficiencies in distributing those funds, or the strings attached, or many of the different inefficiencies of federal government in general. And we talked about how if we didn't have government schools, what would fill the gap? Would there be people that were poor that didn't have the ability to go to school? I pulled out my Communist Manifesto and mentioned that the 10th plank by Karl Marx for the Communist Manifesto was free education for all children in public schools. Um, that some thought about why would he want that? Is that a way to make sure that everybody conforms to communism and doesn't rebel? So there's reasons why the Communist Party has wanted public schools over the years. Um, anyway, lots of fun discussion. We'll probably record more, but I don't record unless everyone on the call agrees to be recorded. So we didn't get a lot of the good conversations recorded, and that's okay. We did get some of them recorded, and just would love to have more people join us next Tuesday at noon. Thanks.